Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Waj, and in this video I'm going to ask the age-old question, which is better, the Sony PlayStation Vita or the Nintendo 3DS? Now the only difference here is that we actually have the new Nintendo 3DS. This is the Japanese version that released on October the 11th, and I've actually had a couple of days to play around with it, really get in the ins and outs of the new handheld console that's going to be available soon all around the world. And I kind of want to do a refresh on the whole idea of comparing the 3DS with the Vita. Now obviously we have upgraded internal specification, which certainly was the weakest part of the last generation 3DS. So let's see how this new one compares against the Vita. Now the overall design on the new 3DS hasn't changed drastically from the older previous versions. It's basically a blend between the standard 3DS that released a couple of years ago and the 3DS XL, both in terms of the overall form factor and the actual dimension. Now when you do have the new 3DS in its clamshell position, it has a little bit of a smaller footprint overall. It measures about 80.6 millimeters in terms of its depth versus the PS Vita's 83.5 millimeters. And the PS Vita is actually a little bit wider than the new 3DS, measuring about 182 millimeters versus the new 3DS's 142 millimeters. Now, additionally, in terms of thickness, you'll also notice that the Vita is slightly thinner than the new 3DS, measuring about 18.6 millimeters versus the 21.6 millimeters on the 3DS. Now, in terms of weight, both of them are pretty much identical at around 160 grams. To be exact, the new 3DS is about 3 grams heavier, which you're never going to notice, but they're pretty much identical in terms of weight. Now let's talk about the controls that the new 3DS offers from the previous generation 3DS. Basically, you now have 2 more bumpers located at the back of the device, so you have the ZL and ZR bumpers, which are going to add some capabilities and features of what the new 3DS can do in terms of control interfaces and different control dynamics, which is excellent. And the other thing you have is the new C-Stick, which is basically a rubber nub that's going to be pressure sensitive to your finger or your thumb's response, and you basically can enable different movements in terms of zooming in and out and a whole bunch of different gameplay dynamics that developers are going to be using to basically allow you to have greater control of your game in a different and unique way. And it's certainly a new control interface that's never been seen in a portable handheld device. Now, one of the highlights of the control interface on the PS Vita is the fact that it has dual thumbsticks, enabling it to play first-person shooter games and a whole bunch of console-like games. It really brings the DualShock controller into a mobile architecture. And obviously another cool thing is that you do have a rear touchpad at the back of the PS Vita, which enables a couple of different controlling interfaces depending upon which game you're playing. And even though it's kind of cool to have that extra control interface, it's also pretty useful that the PS Vita has a full capacitive 5-inch touchscreen, which the 3DS does not. You basically have to use the stylus to control different aspects of your game, which gives it a certain level of precision and a kind of unique flavor that you don't get in the PS Vita. However, unfortunately, the top screen is not a touchscreen, so you can't use the stylus. You can only use the bottom half of the screen to do all your interfacing with. Now let's talk about the screens over here. Basically on the PS Vita, it has a higher resolution 960 by 544 capacitive touchscreen display, which is 5 inches, as we mentioned before. Now, if you take a look at the new 3DS, the Nintendo has actually increased both the top and bottom screens. The top measures 3.88 inches with a resolution of 800 by 240, and the lower screen is 3.33 inches, and that has a resolution of 320 by 240. Now, one big kind of unique factor on the new 3DS is that it has a 3D head tracking enabled for your stereoscopic vision. Not only does this work a lot better than previous generation 3DSs, but you can actually move your head now and still get that 3D effect, which is a huge kind of advanced feature that you're not going to see in pretty much any other device, and it works pretty well most of the time. Now, the display on the PS Vita is always a big argument for PS Vita fans to make, and it certainly is still the case. Because the resolution has not changed on the new 3DS, you still have a higher, better screen on the PS Vita, and it definitely has better colors and overall vibrancies, as well as having a sharper, higher resolution display. Now, when you pop the hoods of both of these two gaming consoles, you'll notice a couple of different features that the PS Vita has that's still kind of overpowering of what the new 3DS has. Now, taking a look at at the new architecture of the new 3DS, it's still using the same ARM11 dual-core processor that was in the previous generation 3DS, but it has kind of an upgraded clock speed around 266 megahertz, and it has double the amount of RAM as last generation 3DS of 256 megabytes of RAM, making it the fastest 3DS Nintendo has ever made. Now, the PS Vita still has that ARM Cortex A9 chip that's clocked anywhere between 800 to 1000 megahertz, which is pretty fast, and it's a quad-core chip with 512 megabytes of RAM. It still has double the amount of RAM of what even the new 3DS is. So in terms of mobile power, the PS Vita is still the king of the mobile graphics realm. Now, in defense of the new 3DS, you have to keep in mind that this product has not been developed properly for games yet. So developers are making games that are going to be available in the next couple of months, and certainly in 2015, that are going to take advantage of the new horsepower and capabilities of the new 3DS. So stuff like Xenoblade Chronicle will have upgraded graphics that will certainly display what the new 3DS can do. Now, in terms of multimedia capabilities and connectivity, both have internal Wi-Fi capabilities, and indeed the new Wi-Fi browser is certainly a lot faster than the previous generation 3DS on the new 3DS, as well as the whole architecture of the OS is a lot more snappier. It boots up a lot faster than the previous generation, and it doesn't lag and hang as much as the previous 3DSs. However, even with those upgrades, the PS Vita is still a little bit more of a snappier device in terms of the overall architecture, and OS is certainly faster in terms of mobile web browsing and watching videos and everything like that. And certainly the experience of consuming media is a little bit more geared towards the PS Vita side rather than the 3DS side. Although the 3DS, you can definitely use those dual screens to your advantage when you're browsing the web and things like that. Now, furthermore, one big advantage on the new 3DS is they've upgraded the battery and battery saving modes on the console itself. So you're getting overall better battery life than previous generation, anywhere from 3.5 to 6 hours using 3D title games. And the PS Vita is certainly not bad, getting anywhere between 3 to 5 hours, but typically on my PS Vita, I'd struggle to get around the 3.5 to 4 hour mark. So it is a little bit more of a power hungry device. And the other cool thing about the new 3DS, indeed with all DSs, is that you can easily replace the battery by removing the back. And so that means if you do a lot of traveling and you're away from power, you can easily buy a whole bunch of these 3DS batteries and keep going without worrying about battery life at all. And we can go on and on about specifications and all these internal kind of features, but the real core thing about any of these devices is the games. And now Nintendo has done a great job on games that they bring to the 3DS. It gets all of the games that you would expect it to get. Stuff like Super Smash Bros., Monster Hunter 4G, Pokemon, Zelda, etc. And certainly one of the reasons why you have so many Nintendo 3DS gamers out there is because of that assurance that they will be getting quality, enjoyable games that is kind of guaranteed from a company like Nintendo, which prides on its consistency. Now, Sony, on the other hand, has never had that same consistency with their titles. Sure, you can expect to see a lot of games that you would typically find on the PlayStation, such as Uncharted and God of War, but you could also see some really unique and great indie titles such as Flower and Tearaway. And in that case, they give you a more fully immersive console-like experience that you would expect on the PlayStation 3 or 4, but also give you a unique experience that you're not going to see in other areas. Indie games such as Tearaway and Flower really kind of push the horizons of what video games can be, and I'm glad to see that the PS Vita and Sony is embracing that philosophy. But of course, everyone has their sides, and the reason why they do is that the debate always relies on which library of the console or device is best suited for you. So in that case, you definitely have to take a look at the library and game selection and figure out which device is going to best suit your needs. Now, to conclude, I kind of wanted to make a list of the kind of advantages of each gaming console. Now, we're going to start with the new 3DS and kind of talk about its advantages. Now, starting first and foremost, it has the new head tracking stereoscopic 3D vision, which is going to monitor your head and eye movements and basically optimize the 3D display for you. A very advanced feature that definitely does work. The other thing I really like is the C-Stick integration. It's basically a unique way and a unique control interface that hasn't been seen in any mobile gaming device ever since. The other cool thing thing is you have the inclusion of the ZR, ZL bumpers, which are going to expand the horizons of your controllability even further. The other big thing that I really like is that the new 3DS actually comes with a micro SD expansion slot, and it comes standard with 4 gigabytes of memory, which is certainly a lot better than the overpriced proprietary PS Vita cards that you have to buy directly from Sony, which I'm not a big fan of at all. The other thing that I also like on the new 3DS is something that we didn't talk about too much in this video, and that's the fact that you can actually take off the back and front plates to actually replace them and fully customize them, and you can get a whole bunch of these plates from Nintendo, and I'm sure lots of third-party manufacturers will be making them, and you can pretty much customize the way your 3DS looks, which is pretty cool. Furthermore, you do get about an hour or so better battery life, and the fact that it is a lot more user accessible by basically removing 2 screws at the back. You have full access to the battery, unlike pretty much disassembling the whole PS Vita to access that battery. Now, on the PS Vita side, the first thing that I like is the fact that it has dual analog thumbsticks, making it available to a wide bandwidth of different games, such as first-person shooters. Now, I do know that you could buy accessories that will allow you to have another thumbstick on the 3DS, but it's kind of cool how the Vita has that built in and nicely integrated. Another unique attribute of the Vita is that it has that rear touchpad as well as a capacitive touchscreen at the front, making it a little bit more interesting to play different games while using those touch interfaces. Moving forward, I do have to say that the quality of the display as well is better than what you would find on the top screen of the new 3DS. Even though the new 3DS has a larger display in terms of resolution and clarity, it really hasn't changed from the previous generation 3DS. Moving on, remote play is a big feature that a lot of Vita fans really love. In fact, people just buy the Vita for the remote play feature. So if you have a PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, you can basically play some of those titles on your handheld PS Vita. Continuing forward, I do have to say that the PS Vita is a better multimedia consumption device. It has better multimedia app support, and it's certainly nicer to watch movies and YouTube videos on. The other cool thing is you can actually download full titles digitally, unlike buying a cartridge every time on the 3DS, which is definitely a nice feature, although you do have to have a lot of space, which means buying a big PS memory card, which is certainly kind of a pain in the neck. And the last and final advantage of the PS Vita definitely has to be the hardware internally. It's still twice as powerful as what you would get on even the new upgraded 3DS, and the graphics performance still certainly shows. The titles on there and the experience you get on the PS Vita is the best mobile gaming experience you're going to get. Even though this thing came out a couple of years ago, it's still outperforming the latest generation of gaming products. But on that, guys, that's really it. Now, keep in mind that I really can't recommend one device over the other if I don't know what your personal preferences are and what kind of special features you prefer. My job is just to basically present the information to you guys, kind of give my thoughts on which feature is certainly a benefit over the other feature on each respective console. I think in both regards, these are the 2 top flagship portable gaming devices you're going to find out there, so there's no reason why somebody would pick one over the other. I think they're pretty evenly matched in that case. There's certainly advantages in terms of the overall game selection that you get on the 3DS overall, and the hardware is certainly something you can't really argue with too much on the PS Vita, although I'm sure you guys will have a little bit of a conversation in the comments down below. But keep it clean, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, please make sure to leave that on a comment down below. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, and if you're interested on how the new 3DS does compared to the older generation 3DS and the XL, make sure to check back to our channel where you'll find those comparison videos. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you later.